Good afternoon. So, as I promised, I will now create a compendium, a video which will in which I will discuss the various ways that of which the government, the society in large in Israel is torturing me. Of course, not only me, but many other people as well. Nothing is invented just for me. I hope it will be, as complete as possible, but of course it cannot be completely complete. Completely complete. It cannot be like, of course I will, I just speak from my head without preparation, and certainly I will, forget several important key issues, but it's nevertheless it's important to actually describe everything, or at least a lot of issues with regards to torture in one video, because I don't think that I've ever done it before. I've spoke about everything. I think that almost everything that I'm going to mention I've already mentioned in the past, but not in one monograph on the subject of torture. But before that, two issues. First, if someone still does not understand what I want, even though I screamed what I want for a million times. So I said one more time, a million times in one. I want to be rescued out of the Nazi prison. Me and my two daughters, rescue. We are prisoners in a Nazi prison, in a horrible Nazi prison, perhaps the worst that ever existed. I have two daughters, Ila and Orin, 6 and 7 years old, and we are held prisoners in a Nazi prison, subject to torture. And we need to be rescued by foreign powers. This cannot be done by the movement of mouses and tongues. The movement of mouses and tongues only prolonged our torture and make it worse. This can only be done by the movement of arms and legs. It is impossible to negotiate with the Israelis. It's impossible to solve the issue using mouses and tongues. It's impossible. It's not an option. The only thing that movement of mouses and tongues create is more torture and more suffering for the victims. And all the games the sick theater of courthouse and arrests and custody trials and jobs and money and the banks and selling stuff over the internet, or selling like that, or selling like this. It's this cannot. Some of it could be relevant when I'm out of a Nazi prison, but while I'm in the Nazi prison, it's a sick game. It's a sick charade. It's a divine and disgusting theater, because the government. Because I can only do whatever the Israeli people want me to do, not more and more less, no less. It's not a democracy. It's nothing even close to democracy. A prisoner in the Nazi camp required to be rescued, to be freed from the Nazi camp. And only after he's freed, we can speak about money and about custody, about things like that. Until the time, this is just a game, and I'm sick of playing this game for you. I don't have any more power actually to play the game, and moreover, I think that playing the game will perhaps create distraction. So people might think, yeah, he wants to play the game that is almost a civilian, he's almost a human being. He's almost he almost have rights. No, I do not have rights. I am a subhuman. I need to be rescued by force. Not by the movement of mouths and tongues, by force. Now, it's not new. I'm saying it for years now, and yeah, no one cares. So, what's happening now is a frying of the earth, frying by powers that beyond your imagination. That's wiping out the entire humanity by means of radiation. As I said many times before, it will not end with radiation. Although asteroids are also on the way, and they will be here quicker than you think, because I mean, whoever sent them can also accelerate them very easily, and it's ongoing. And even that will not be the end because we have other things at our disposal. And as I said before, I mean, corruption of the water reservoirs of Israel. Starting with Israel, and corruption of the lands with alien worms. That you, I mean, it's not science fiction. You've already seen the worms. I mean, you've seen it with your own eyes. Alien worms that or sea snakes that live in toxic waste. And I mean, completely immune to all antiseptic solutions that you can think of, like alcohol or soap or hydrogen peroxide or iodine. They actually swimming it and having fun. You have already seen it with your own eyes. I mean, so it's, I mean, nothing, you don't need to believe in anything at all. I mean, no belief is required here. I mean, only the decision between ego and life. That's all. I mean, you don't need to believe me. I do not ask you to believe in nothing. I mean, not in me, not in God, not in nothing. I just ask you to decide what's better. I mean, what is more preferable? Future for your children and for humanity, a kind of future, because it will not be the bright future that you once imagined, because the calamities are already on the way and are not going anywhere. But some kind of future, or ego, like the Israelis. We are the best and no one will tell us what to do. That's the decision that you need to face. Decision between we are the best, no one will tell us what to do, and the complete destruction of Earth and humanity. Or maybe you acknowledge the fact that you were horribly wrong. You treated foreigners with the most cruel way possible, and that you are responsible, not anyone else. And I mean, the only way to fix the situation right now is to move arms and legs to rescue me and my daughters out of the Nazi prison. That's the only way. And it should be done by force, and it should be done with mouths and tongues not moving. Because the movement of mouths and tongues only creates more suffering. Okay, so having said that, another topic from yesterday. So yesterday I've discussed the issue of fuels, and I've said that I don't have like many types of fuels to actually check how they interact with the Nero juice. I've mentioned coal, but coal, I mean, in order to check coal, you need to make like a big, relatively large fire, and I don't have time for that. But I thought about oils. I mean, oils are, household stuff, and maybe canola oil or olive oil. It's kind of like interesting to see how they react with the Neros. My estimation is that it will be similar to how they interact, how the Neros interacted with beeswax, but it should be checked. Maybe I'll check this today. I'm going to do another fire later today. Not far away from outside the home, but not very far away, because I'm under restriction. So I just do it possibly like in a park somewhere here in the Rishon LeZion. And another thing that could be checked is linseed oil. Linseed oil is something that I've already mentioned several times, because it proved to be a very good, surprisingly good, fertile ground for the creation of actually living stuff, which was surprising, but we must remember these are alien creatures. So alien bugs, alien worms, alien bacteria that you've already seen that they were created. I mean, other stuff were needed in electrolysis and stuff, but yeah, I mean, they proved to go, nicely over linseed oil. Linseed oil is a very crude oil that is used to as basis for paint oils. That's why I have it with me, and it's very crude oil. And I remember from in the past, I actually tried to burn it. Just for curiosity, and it burns really well. It's very flammable actually, and it's extremely flammable, more than other oils that you can find in home. Not as much as turpentine, of course, but very flammable. And it also burns more time than turpentine, of course. So actually, and we already know that the Neros are doing great in this node, so they will not be killed by it. So what I will try to do today is to mix a little bit of, or more than a bit of linseed oil with the Nero juice, and then light it. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be spectacular, because from experience, linseed oil in any case is something that it burns much more brightly and with combustion than normal house oil or oils or beeswax. So we can see, what will happen if we also add the Neros to enhance it, to enrich it. Should be very, should be quite a spectacle. I'll do it after 6, so it will be dark, so I'll be able to see the fire. But we don't have much time, because by 7 I need to be back home, according to the court order. So, but that's the plan for today with regards to lightning. Okay, so let's start speaking about torture. So, what kind of tortures I'm subjected to in Israel? So first of all, and before everything, the worst thing before everything is just the fact that the government makes you poor, no matter how much you've studied and how how hard working you are. And believe me, I've studied a lot during my life, and you don't need to believe me, it's quite evident. And I have an excellent record, professional record within computer, in software engineering, and I'm very hardworking, and it doesn't matter, because it's not really democracy. It's just, you are under the boot of the government all the time, and it's, and it's not really free market, because, the government controls everything. And this is particularly true to people like me that are under surveillance of the Shabak all their life, because I don't have even ways to interact with people without their knowledge. They control my phone, they control my email. Think about it, and you don't even need much technology for this to happen. But of course, it's very easy with the technology of this day. But think about even, again, I've said it many times that I feel like I'm perpetually a bad guy in an episode of the original Mission Impossible, from the 60s. Think about it like that. But it's not only that I'm not the bad guy. I don't even know I've never done anything at all, and I don't even know what they want from me. But I'm always there is always a team of people that track me and twist, control my phones, control my mail, control everything, and they're always making shows. So I will always be I'll be fooled by their show. So they will be able to prove something about me or to do something to me without my knowledge that will actually in some way sabotage my life. But so I'm perpetually the bad guy in a never-ending Mission Impossible episode from the 60s, always under the harassment of intelligence agencies, mostly the Shabak, but also the Mossad. As I said, Mossad also has large interest in me, and they always follow me and sabotage my life. And it's never ending. And since I've never done anything at all, I don't have anything to admit. They want me to admit that I've done something that I don't even know what they want me to admit, because I've never done anything at all. But it's never ending. It's harassment that never ends. So in this situation, you don't really, whatever job that I will ever can get is only things that they coordinated. And it's true for any other kind of venture. They control my life entirely, and since I do not cooperate with them, even though it took me a lot of time to actually decide what it means to be cooperated, and it means that to give them my semen and to allow them to rape me whatever they want and to have sex with whoever they want, whenever they want, be it female or male or whatever it's in their interests. My sexuality should be subjected to them completely. I need to be a whore all my life. That's what they want. It took me a lot of time to understand it, because it's so ridiculous. So of course, when I understood it, I chose not to comply with it, and of course, the result is complete poverty and misery. And if the target, like myself, also he has children, like I do, they also take the children from them, which is very easy because they control the courts, and the courts is just a joke. It's a joke. It's controlled by the Shabak 100%. It's not a democracy. It's nothing. It's even like remotely resembles democracy. So yeah. So before we even begin to speak about torture, there are these two main issues: the issue of poverty that you cannot, escape, no matter what kind of education. And my education is top notch, like at best university, best kind of degree, honorary program, whatever you want, best kind of like military service. It doesn't matter because they control because it's not a democracy. So these two issues, the issue of poverty and the issue of the children are taken away from you, and these are the main issues, because the person that has no money and cannot have money, and the most important thing in the world, which is his children, are taken from him, and this of course creates great suffering for him. These are the main, this torture is much bigger than anything that I will now refer to, because what's worse than that than your children to be taken from you, and that you will not have any money at all, and you will be complete live in complete poverty. What can be worse than that? So this is the main issue. Now, after that, but it's not enough for them. So let's speak about more further, torture, and we will now first speak about psychological torture and then physical torture. Now, under psychological torture, there is a myriad of things that, it took me a lot of time to actually understand, because it's all part of a method that I believe was not created in Israel. And I've spoken about the method. I don't know what's the name of the method, but it's probably kind of like a mesh, like a mixed, mesh-up of all sort of psychological tortures that I guess were probably most of it was invented in Soviet Russia, but even before that, even in Tsar Russia, in the Tsarist Russia. This is my estimation. I admit that it's mostly based on the writings of essays of George Orwell, and also some stuff I read from Mikhail Bulgakov, which also refer to things that happen under the intelligence of the Tsar in Russia. And it seems that my estimation is that this is the place where this stuff were invented. But this does not preclude. Perhaps most probably, the Anglo-Saxon cultures like England and the United States also added their own share of their own variations to the method, because it is known that during the 40s and the 50s, the MI6 and the CIA were also very interested in this kind of bullshit, and it's all very old-fashioned. And my estimation is that most intelligence services today, if around the world, if they use it at all, they use it in very limited capacity, because it's required a lot of effort from many people. It's very labor-intensive, and it's very. The actual results are very limited. If they are not reinforced with pure violence, like old school violence, in which they do in Israel. So, and the fact that it's so common in Israel, because in Israel, the intelligence services are actually huge, but they are mostly, they mostly contain unskilled people, unprofessional, some of the others that have no intellectual background and no professional, and no education. The only thing that they excel is they are pedophiles and homosexuals, which is the ticket to enter the Israeli intelligence. So they have a lot of the scumbags in Israel, but these kind of scumbags that they can't do anything by themselves, and they are not fit for any modern intelligence work. So this method it fits them like a glove to a hand, because it doesn't require much. It's just repeating all sorts of stupid rituals and disgusting noises and shows that even retards can actually participate in this method, and many are actually retards. Or close to that. Many are extremely low IQ. So that's why I guess it's so common in Israel, because it requires relatively a lot of, like, it's labor intensive, but they have that labor because so many in the Israeli, like, population are actually, related to the Shabak and to the intelligence services. And it doesn't require almost no education or skill or profession, which also, fits the Israelis because most of them are scumbags that, enter the Israeli intelligence by the merit of being pedophiles and homosexuals. And that's why I guess that, throughout the world, the world was advanced from this kind of, like, it's very crude, it's based on theories of hypnosis and, like, psychological influence that were common in the 1940s and 50s, and even before that, as I mentioned, it started doing, actually, I think, during Tsarist Russia, even before the revolution, and it was gained, like, traction during the 1940s and 50s, but since then, psychology was advanced, so much, and most of it, was positively proven to be just like garbage and bullshit. And again, it works, but just by means that by the fact that it's, as I said many times, it's kind of like puree, puree, like mashed potatoes, like that. It is known that mashed potatoes in very, like, high quality, like in Michelin star restaurants, it is served with 50% butter. So it's like that. It's 50% the psychological method and 50% butter, and the butter is violence. So the Israeli serves you this psychological bullshit. With 50% by violence. So many times it works. But what does it mean that it works? It means that you do whatever they want because they put, like, they hit you. In many ways that I will describe later. This video, but. So the psychological part is actually the most dubious of all, and again, I think that it doesn't really work. In itself, only when it's sprinkled. More than sprinkled, it's like drowning in 50% sauce of violence. So if you want to, like, to be more specific, so it's like the coughing, like, so for years now, everywhere I go, I hear people that are doing it. You can even hear that in many of my videos because, like, the neighbors here always do it. Like, even, like, when they don't know that I actually like taking videos, and sometimes even when they do, they don't really care. Because what the fuck? So you can see it, you can hear it all. So it's like the sound of my life. Everybody, all the time. It was like that in Shoam, it's like here. Again, I only live where they want me to live, so it's not a problem for them that I will live in places that are creeping with Shabak people. Like, I don't choose where to live. So there is the coughing, there is the sound of cart, like a rolling cart. You can hear it all day long, all night, anywhere I go. Although if you listen to my videos, you probably picked it because it's many times you actually can hear it when I actually take videos because it's perpetual, the sound of carts. And also the cards themselves for some reason. So now we should add the issue of triggers, which I've spoken about it at length in the past, not in the YouTube stage, but in the Twitter stage, because I actually wanted to understand, what do the triggers signify? And then I understand that it signifies nothing. It's just bullshit psychological theory that, unprofessional and unskillful, and some of them are, borderly retarded people, were instructed, to demonstrate, and they just do it, because they want, they think that the purpose is to make you weak and to subject you to the will, according to some kind of hypnosis theory that, belongs, I think, to, I don't know, to, as I said in the past, young adult magazines like Mariv LaNoir from the 1980s or before. Like, very, like, infantile and juvenile understanding of psychology that, that dictates that, if you show a person all sorts of stuff like numbers or words or objects, and then you will show it again to him, you will be subjected to your will. I don't think that it's ever proven to work. I did say, I spoke about it in the past. in the past, for some reason, it was important to me to figure out what exactly are those triggers, and I prepared like a list. I've spoken about it like a lot in the Twitter stage. I mean, they have like the Kofiko. It's like a character from children's like book novels, and then later from TV show, and so and of Noam Sira, it's like a motorcycle with the boats, like old style motorcycle. The motorcycle, I think it was popular in Nazi Germany and also in Israel up until the 70s or even through the 80s. And today there are like 10 like these that are in operation in Israel, and for some reason, for wherever I go, there is one of them that follows me. I mean, it's a ludicrous coincidence. So of course, it's also a trigger, and a very important trigger is the police itself. And I've spoken about it at length because this is not funny at all. I mean, according to their, they try to. This is a special case, and I've spoken about it a lot because they try, to cement the idea of police and the look of police and the sound of the sirens as something that is terrifying in the heart of the victim. So the victim will not be able to actually call the police and will be terrified by the mention of the police. And I don't know if it ever worked on anybody, but if it does, it's the worst crime against humanity that I can think of. Really, it's something that even the Nazis couldn't thought about, because you do understand that if a person has such a condition, like psychological condition, against the police, they can do anything they want to him, and that's of course the reason why they did do it. They want you not to be able to actually interact with the police. It's worse than any Nazi state. Now, because of that, you can hear sirens like all day and all night long, and this is something extremely common even in the videos that I record, to hear sirens, because siren is the most common soundtrack element of my life are police sirens. All the time. Saturdays, holidays, regular days, day and night, siren. Wherever I go, and especially when I'm in my apartment, you hear the sirens. Because according to their theory, you are susceptible to sirens. Now, of course, it's not a pleasant thing to hear sirens all day, night, and all day and all night. I don't know if you don't need a special psychological condition to be intimidated by it, or just to hate it and to feel like you are in Nazi prison, because that's what you are. You live in a Nazi prison. So, the conditions against police and the everlasting existence of police, and especially of sirens in your life, is probably the most horrible of all this, like the psychological aspects of the torture. And so in the past, I've spoken about also of triggers. Most of them are bizarre. There are also of numbers that you were supposedly to have precondition against, like 65, or I don't know. Most of it is so ridiculous. In retrospect, I don't even understand why I think that in retrospect, it seems to me that I put too much effort in really trying to understand and to list those triggers. But I wanted to understand. What's happening? Like, why do they do what they do? And it took time to understand that these people, most of them are borderline retarded. So to actually understand why they do what they do is a waste of time. They are retards. They don't know what they do. It's just they have chips in their ears, like cochlear implants, and they're more intelligence, but also borders on the retarded operators. Are telling them to do all sort of stuff, and to shout like meaningless words with the hope that it will have any limiting effect on you, and that you will be subjected to their will. And they do it just because it's very easy. It's extremely easy. It requires no education and no skill and no effort and no planning. It's just a bunch of animals blah, 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 and shouting stuff, coughing, or playing sirens. We don't even need the police in order to play siren. And it's hell, and it's hell that is mostly comprised of people that are extremely they have extremely low qualifications. They are just fascist pigs without any education, any skill, no intelligence, no nothing. So they do what they can, which is to repeat all sort of like shoutings and so-called psychological triggers that, I mean, came from a very old-fashioned and like not based on facts, psychological theory that they keep, like, I mean, using because it's very, very easy. I also should mention that in the past, like, I'm not doing it for like maybe a year now, but in like throughout my journey in Israel, and many times I've actually used, I mean, I understood that, I mean, they are using the trigger in order for me to actually like be subjected to them. So I hang down or do something like that, just in order for them to be happy to see that it works. And I did it in order because I wanted to participate in all sort of like stuff that, I mean, to see things that that it was important for me to see. Like I have many like journey with the Tesla, I mean, especially the Tesla, but before with the Peugeot. But I mean, mostly, I mean, in the year that I had the leasing Tesla Model 3 with me, and I drove all around the country, and I was able to participate in a lot of stuff and see a lot of things. I mean, just because I participated in this ritual, and I showed like that I'm subjected to them when they wanted, like when they put the triggers on me, and that I understood that these are triggers. So it was kind of like a show that I participated in order to see things that were important for me. But I don't want to reiterate, I mean, all of those, because it was documented, I mean, in the Twitter and in my personal Evernote account, in backup in Gmail, and I think a lot of it is interesting, but it's a lot of stuff. I mean, and it was already documented, and it's not place now to repeat it. Just with regard to the issue of psychological triggers, it also should be mentioned, because it was, I mean, part of my journey to actually understand what they are, and to mimic, I mean, my like part of the show, in order to sometimes in order to be able to like to see all sort of things that were, I mean, interesting for me. So because I needed to learn and to understand like what the hell is this world, right? No one tells me anything, and I'm not part of any intelligence organization. Okay, I should also mention that, I mean, for me specifically, perhaps the most horrible aspect of the psychological terror is the fact that wherever I go, including in this apartment with my mother and her husband, I always like reminded, like day and night, that the people that surround me like want me to be subjected to them and to be their slave. I mean, this is the most horrible part for me, because whenever they perform these ridiculous like shows, the rituals, or these triggers, and I always like, I mean, I should also mention this you know, this issue, these things. I mean, wherever I go, there is always like a person or two that waits for me to look at them, and when they see that I watch them, they do it very pronouncedly. So I understand that these are, of course, affiliated with the Shabak, because this is, of course, a very sophisticated trigger that, I mean, should, I don't know, put you down, or limit your, limit you, I mean, put you under the command. Also of kind of like a power fantasies that, I mean, that you can understand why, I mean, people of very low qualification and borderline retard IQ harbor. But almost all of them are like that, so that's why it's very easy to, wherever you go, to identify what people, I mean, belong to the Shabak or the Mossad or whatever. Yeah, and it's, of course, it's very, these things on compound with other stuff, other pieces of the puzzle, I mean, allowed me to learn a lot of stuff with regards to how the Israelis operate. So there is this stuff, yes, of course. So as I was starting to say, the main like hazardous effect of the psychological triggers, I mean, from my point of view, is the fact that I'm always reminded, you have nobody in this world, and any stranger, I mean, wants you for some reason to be under his command. And even in your own, where you stay, like in your jail or your apartment, I mean, the people there wants you to be their slave. And this, and you keep reminded of that. And like, I mean, this, I mean, of course, it makes you hate, I mean, all the people in this world, because, I mean, why all of you are such scumbags? I mean, like, Why is it that 100% of the people of the Israeli intelligence are scumbags? I mean, there is Ein Tzadik Besdom, there is no one righteous person in Sodom. So the answer is no, there isn't. They are all scumbags. In Israel is 100% Dixieland. I mean, there are no evolutionists in Israel. You hear the barking of dogs. It's also something incredibly common. It's part of the psychological, terror. That I mean, dogs always bark and sometimes even attack you in the street, which is not psychological. But as I said, many times the psychological horror is compounded with actual violence, like violence from cops or violence from dogs. So I mean, it's never really pure. It's always comes. This mashed potatoes always come with 50% butter. So you understand. I mean, you have nobody in this world. You understand that. I mean, everybody hates you, and everybody wants you under the command, and everybody harbor like power fantasies on you. And this is, of course, a very distressing thought, and something that once you actually, to just, leave this. This in many other reasons, but even that alone, it's enough to make you just pray for the day that you will be rescued from this hell, you and your daughters. Okay, so this is under psychological, psychological part, but we are not done, and we are far from done, because now we need to speak about the actual physical torture, which and there are plenty of ways. But I'll do it in another video, because I like videos to be not too long, and this is already past half an hour. So in just a couple of minutes, I will drink something, and then I will discuss physical torture, which is abundant.